Hi everyone, this is my video for graphing inequalities on 2D plane. So let's get started. First we have y is less than 3 times x minus 1 squared minus 2. First we should derive the vertex of this parabola, and the vertex of every parabola will always be h comma k. And since our equation is quadratic in the x, h will be on the inside and k will be on the outside. And when we derive the values to get our vertex, we always want the value inside the parentheses to be the opposite of what it is when we plug it in. So therefore, the vertex of this parabola will be 1 comma negative 2. Let's graph this. And that is done. And how we will know which way our parabola will be facing is that a is positive and our equation is quadratic in the x. So therefore, this means that our parabola will be facing upwards. So now let's graph. I'll choose 2 for my x. Let's choose 2 minus 1. It's 1 squared. 1 times 3. 3 minus 2. We get 1. For our second point is 2 comma 1. And now we see that our theory is correct. And now, moving on, we can plug in 3 for x. We get 3 minus 1. 2 squared. 4 times 3. 12 minus 2. We get 10. So our third point is 3 comma 10. And now our graphing is done. Now we need to decide what kind of line to use. Since our inequality uses less than and does not include equal to, we will use a dotted line. And now for shading, we need to choose any point on the graph. Let's choose 4 comma 0. This being x and this being y, we get 0 is less than 3 times 4 minus 1, squared minus 2. This is 3 squared, which is 9 times 3, which is 27. And then we get 0 is less than 27 minus 2, which is 25. So this is true. We will highlight the outside of the parabola. And finally, for the axis of symmetry, since our equation is quadratic in the x, our axis of symmetry will penetrate the x-axis. So therefore, it will be going down in a straight line along the vertex. So therefore, our axis of symmetry, where it penetrates the x-axis, is 1. So therefore, x equals 1. Moving on, we have x is greater than or equal to 3y squared minus 12y plus 6. Since this equation is not in vertex form, we need to convert it into that. So to do that, we need to isolate y. So if we divide everything by 3, we get x over 3 is greater than or equal to y squared minus 4y plus 2. And now we need to use the formula b over 2 squared, and we get negative 4 over 2, and negative 2 squared, and we get 4. And now we need to use this number inside of the parentheses. So now we get x over 3 is greater than or equal to parentheses y minus 2. And now finally we need to subtract this number from c. And now we get 2 minus 4, which is negative 2. And finally we multiply everything by 3 again. And then we get x is greater than or equal to 3 times y minus 2 minus 6. And that is our vertex form. And now, since our equation is quadratic in the y, k will be in the inside of the parentheses and h will be in the outside. Therefore, the vertex of our parabola will be negative 6 comma 2. Let's graph this. And that is done. And since a is positive here, and our equation is quadratic in the y, this means that our parabola will most definitely face right. So now let's start graphing. I'll choose 3 for y. If we plug this in, we get 3 minus 2, which is 1 squared. We get 1 again, times 3. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. So our second point is negative 3 comma 3. And we see that our theory is correct. And now moving on, we can plug in 4 for y. We get 4 minus 2. We get 2 squared. We get 4 times 3. 12 minus 6 is 6. So therefore, the third point on our parabola is 6 comma 4. And for parabolas with vertex forms that use parentheses, always make sure that we use a rounded edge. Oh, and now we need to decide what kind of line to use. And since our inequality uses greater than or equal to, we'll use a solid line. And that is done. Let me go to the edges of the graph. There. And now to decide where to shade, let's pick a point. I'll use -7, 0. With this being x and this being y, we get -7 is greater than or equal to 3 times -2, which is -6. Oh, no, excuse me. -2 squared, so we get 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, and then 12 minus 6 is 6. So we get -7 is greater than equal to 6, which is not true. Also, let me put a little square here, since I forgot to put that. And now, since that is not true, we will shade on the inside of the parabola. And finally, for the axis of symmetry, since our equation is quadratic on the x and the y, this means that it will penetrate the y-axis along the vertex. So let's go here. And now we know that y is equal to 2. And for our final problem, we have y is less than or equal to 2 times the absolute value of x minus 2 plus 1. And notice that there is no square here, so don't accidentally square your values. So first, let's get the vertex. And since our equation is quadratic in the x, h will be on the inside, k will be on the outside. Therefore, the vertex of our parabola will be 2, 1. Let's graph this. And now, to decide which way our parabola will be facing, since a is positive, and our equation is quadratic in the x, this means our parabola will face upwards. Now let's start graphing. I'll choose 3 for x, and get 3 minus 2. We get 1 squared, not squared. So 1 times 2, 2 plus 1, we get 3. So our second point is 3, 3. Let me see our theory is correct. And now we choose one more point. We get 4 for x. We plug in, we get 4 minus 2. We get 2 times 2. We get 4 plus 1. And we get 5. So our third point is 4, 5. And that is done. And since our inequality uses less than or equal to, we will use a solid line. And keep in mind that for vertex forms with absolute values, we will always use a pointed edge for where we curve from the vertex, instead of the rounded edge for vertex forms with parentheses. And so now, let's choose a point on the graph. Let's do 0, 0. And then we get 0 is less than or equal to 2 times the absolute value of -2. So it's just 4 plus 1, we get 5. Since this is true, we will shade on the outside of the parabola. And now finally for the vertex, since our equation is quadratic in the x, this means our axis of symmetry will penetrate the x-axis along the vertex. So therefore, x is equal to 2. And that is the video, and I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.